So what were the photons doing 4.5 billion years ago?
So I think they were in heaven.
I'm asking which one existed first, the sun or the earth?
Moon existed first. How do you know that we were never settled on moon first, right? And then we jumped
This has
to
got to be a
Earth?
troll. Has it just been the most elaborate troll I've ever seen?
Because you said
Orielko, have we spoken before?
yes, we have.
Did we talk about this topic?
Yes, I kind of.
Okay. Well, here's a question. How old do you think the Earth is?
6,000 light years old.
That's
Whatever
not an age, that's a distance.
So not light year, right? But light years old.
That's a distance, not an age.
So that's what I wanted to talk to you about, right? So let's say with Einstein's equation that you do reach the speed of light exactly.
You can?
Right? Yes, right. So then you do age at a certain pace.
Well, no, but you can't go the speed of light.
But let's say we did, theoretically, right?
So theoretically, let's just break the laws of physics. Mathematically, you can't. It doesn't make sense mathematically.
We can. Mathematically, yes, we can.
No, you can't.
So infinity, right? So infinity can be taken out of infinity itself, right? Without affecting the infinity. That's true.
I have no idea what that means. Yes, no? Look, mathematically, if you were to go to the speed of light, you'd be dividing by 0. And you can't do that. You can't divide by 0 mathematically. So you can't go the speed of light.
So let's say if I take a number out of infinite numbers, what number am I losing? No number, right? Technically.
Sorry, what? If you take a number out of infinite numbers?
Yes.
So if you have like an infinite set of numbers and then you remove one of the numbers from it, you still have an infinite set of numbers, yeah.
Yes. Right. So let's say if I take out infinite numbers out of those, how many numbers
it depends on which set you remove. You could remove the entire set, in which case you'd be left with nothing. You could remove the entire set except one, in which case you'd be left with a finite number. Or you could remove an infinite set that still leaves an infinite set behind.
Yes, set theory, right?
Yeah. What does this have to do with the age of the Earth?
So now the age of the Earth, right? So you say like 6,000 light years old, right? So
that's not an age. That's a distance. A light year is a distance. It's like, what, like 4 or like 3 trillion miles or something, if I remember correctly? I can never remember.
Yeah, I mean, light year is a distance, but what I'm trying to say is that what is the
6 trillion
universal time frame of Einstein equation if we do reach the speed of light, right?
You can't reach the speed of light.
So at what time frame is our body clock running on then? If we do reach
so we have something called proper time. Our proper time runs at, well, it runs at 1 second per second. Now, relative to somebody else's proper time, our proper time might be faster or slower. If somebody was floating out in deep space, but otherwise not moving relative to us, then their proper time would tick ever so slightly faster than our proper time would.
And what is that proper time based on?
Based off of like what your wristwatch does. So their wristwatch would tick ever so slightly faster than our wristwatch.
So when you say like 6,000 years old, right? You base it off of the how many times the Earth has gone around the sun,
right?
Right. But then again, when we look at like, hey, how much time the Earth has gone around the sun, that is how not exactly what we started measuring, right? We used to measure like, hey, how many times the moon has gone around the Earth because we were geocentric at one point, right?
We've always measured a year by how long it takes for the Earth to go around the sun. Now, it turns out that
was Roman calendar.
It turns out that 3,000 years ago, or 2,000 years ago, or 1,000 years ago even, they misunderstood what it was they were measuring. They thought they were measuring how long it takes for the sun to go around the Earth and come back to where it started. That's what they called a year. But that is what they were actually measuring, is how long it takes for the Earth to go all the way around the sun. Put another way, they were asking how long does it take for the seasons to cycle again.
Yes, and you could follow the moon calendar and you could relatively arrive to the same thing, but you defined 1 year old as, hey, we go around the sun in these many things, right? These many days, right? Or in 4 seasons, and we'll call that a year, right?
Yeah.
Is that yes or no?
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
roughly a year is the number of, like the number of seasons divided by 4.
Yeah, right. So then we are assuming that that's how but we go with human calendars, right? Then we can see that Earth is only like we only started doing that 2,000 years ago, right? Uh,
Well, sure.
most
I
of the
mean, like
people.
it just depends on
Mhm,
which community you're looking at. But sure, humans have only been keeping track of time for a few thousand years.
mhm. So now, if we go a little further back, then we can see like moon calendar, right? And before that,
Well,
anything
no, I
can be
mean like
programmed.
as long as we've been keeping track of the moon to indicate the month, we've been keeping track of the year. But like we don't have records of humans keeping track of the years from like more than 6 or 7 thousand years ago.
Yeah, but we don't have people keeping track of moon calendar either, right?
Right, that's my point. But that doesn't mean that those years didn't happen.
Yes. So now we are questioning history, right? Because we know that since 2,000 years ago, we have been tracking solar calendar, right? Or the position of the sun, right?
To be
And
clear,
that's
that
mhm,
predates 2,000 years ago, but sure.
relatively, right? So now we don't have much of the history that we're arguing about, right? Even you and me right now.
Do you mean like the human history or what kind of
You're saying
history?
like billions of years old, right?
So, what kind of history are you thinking about here? Because we absolutely do have like uh, what you might call like geological history, right? Like we can go and we can look at when XYZ volcano erupted 5 million years ago, or when when a meteor hit the Earth, however many whatever years ago, or that the glaciers retreated 12,000 years. Like we do have that history. Now we don't have a human history because humans weren't really keeping track of what we were doing at the time.
Yes. So, and all of those, right, that we can get from the data that we get from the environment, right? All of those data, I mean, isn't it pre-programmed? Like, couldn't it be pre-programmed?
Could all of your memories be pre-programmed too?
Right now, yes, but like before I was born, maybe after I was born, no,
Why not? Why couldn't they have been pre-programmed after you were born?
because your interest lies in different place than mine. Because
What?
I don't know what you value more, right?
What? Look, all I'm asking is how do you know that last
Mm-hmm.
week existed?
Because I'm going by my own programming.
So, could your memories prior to last week be completely fabricated and just pre-programmed into your brain?
Uh, yes, it could be.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But do you believe that?
No.
Okay. Why not?
And why would they do that?
Well, I don't need to give you a justification.
Yeah, I mean, like, why would they do that, right? So,
Who they? I mean, maybe the universe just popped into existence like 2 days ago and you popped into existence with all of your memories.
and why would I care?
Well, the point is whether or not it's true.
Yeah, but it's untrue, right?
Well, that's the question. Why
Mm-hmm.
do you think that it's not true?
Because I have history, right?
But how do
So
you know the
I
history
remember
wasn't
what happened
pre-programmed?
before that.
How do
Before
you know the
that too,
history
right?
wasn't pre-programmed?
So I'm programming, right? As long as I have programmed it, I can be self-assured. Unless someone like you says it, right? Hey, how do you know, right? You have not been programmed. Then obviously, I'll not question myself, but I'll question you, right?
No,
Whatever
you
you
should
say.
question yourself.
No, I'll not question myself. I'll question you.
Wait, why wouldn't you question yourself? How do you know that your memories are correct?
I mean, like I don't base anything off of my memory, right? I base it off of certainty. So I don't like what you're talking about here.
How do you come to certainty about, last week happening?
Because I don't care if last week happened.
Really? You care?
Yes.
So you don't care if last week happened, but you do care.
I don't even care if yesterday happened.
So you understand what I'm doing, right?
Yes, but what I'm trying to say is that, yes, the Earth is, you're trying to see, like, hey, history from a certain perspective, right? And you're trying to say, hey, so now I'm basing it off of, like, hey, I don't care about what happened yesterday, right? And I don't want to verify, right? But I would love to care if Earth is actually 6,000 years old, right? And your 6,000 years old is based off of solar calendar, which we only started tracking since 2,000 years old. So I'm not sure like where you're getting this data 6,000 years old from, because...
Let me explain then. Because, look, you asked if all of that evidence that we use to come to the conclusion about when glaciation events happened, when meteors struck, when volcanoes erupted, all of that data, if that could have been pre-programmed into the Earth, so that the Earth really isn't 6,000, or really isn't billions of years old, but rather it just looks like it's billions of years old because whoever made the Earth pre-programmed it that way. That's what you were asking. Now, using that same line of reasoning, namely, well, how can we say that historical evidence implies that the history actually happened? We can come to a very, very similar conclusion, or a very, very similar level of skepticism, that about whether or not last week happened, whether or not Jesus ever existed, whether or not JFK was ever assassinated, whether or not any of these things ever happened, just by saying, well, we live now. How can we trust all of the historical evidence, all of the memories, all of the video of these things happening? Maybe whoever created the world created it last week and just made it look as if it's far older. The moment you start questioning all of the historical evidence that we have, you end up at last Thursdayism.
Not questioning history, right?
Geological history is just as much history as written history is.
So geological history, what does it... So that's... Geological history is based off of carbon dating. Carbon is based off of...
It's not based on carbon dating.
What is it based off of then?
It's based off of a whole slew of methods, but carbon dating doesn't really get you into geological time. Carbon dating gets you to maybe 50,000 years ago, and geological time is far, far, far longer.
So what is geological timing? How is it measured?
We can use things like uranium-lead dating. We can use things like cosmogenic nuclide dating. We can use things like ice core dating.
That's half-life, right, basically?
Which one?
Uranium, everything.
No, only the first one was... Only uranium-lead dating relies on half-lives.
What do the other relies on?
So cosmological radionuclide dating is based off of the deposition rate from space of certain rare isotopes in revealed Earth. So like you have a glacier that retreats, and as it retreats, it reveals more like stones and rocks and stuff. And because the glacier is no longer covering those rocks are now exposed to cosmic rays, which then cause the atoms in those rocks to change. And you can basically count how many of those atoms have changed, and that will give you a measure of how long it's been exposed. Then there's ice core dating, which essentially just counts how many seasons have happened, because you can keep track of the seasonal changes in the ice deposition in places like Greenland. You'll see cycles repeating over and over and over again, that when you'll get more you'll get a different kind of ice in the winter than you will in the summer, and so you can see how many layers there are. There's tons of different and independent ways of measuring the age of the Earth or measuring geological time, and not all of them rely on radiometric dating.
So season change, that means the change in event, right?
I don't know what you mean by change in event.
So when you say season change, that means the rotational of the Earth changes, or the...
No, what I mean is that over the course of a year, you have summer, winter, or you have summer, fall, winter, spring. And so because of temperature fluctuations, because of atmospheric fluctuations over the course of a year, the kinds of gases that's present, the kind of ice that's present in these ice cores fluctuates in a periodic way.
Okay. Yeah, I mean seasonal change, and then basically the formation of rock or the growing of tree, right? With how many layers of the trees around it has, or how many layers of rock it forms, then you can trace the rock to its origin. Isn't that basically it?
Well, yeah, I mean that's another thing that you can do. You can also look at like sediment deposition rates. The one of the other ones that I mentioned was it was cosmogenic radionuclide dating, which relies on relatively consistent rates at which cosmic rays strike the Earth and deposit different amounts or deposit fairly consistent amounts of new materials into rocks, and it changes the makeup of the rocks. And we can look at the makeup of the rocks and check the amount of these new atoms that appear. Like there's like half a dozen different ways that we can figure out the age of the Earth, or figure out rather that we live in a very old Earth.
So what you're saying is that depending on if the Earth was static, right, and if the if Earth was not static and it revolved around the sun and exactly and as it was, then it would see the formation of rock would be as it stands now, right? Is that what you're saying?
So if the Earth was only 6,000 years old, then there wouldn't be enough time to deposit these certain atoms into the rocks that have been exposed by glaciers, because it takes time for those atoms to be deposited into the rocks. And we see more of those atoms than could be accounted for with the 6,000-year-old age.
Okay. That makes sense.
So, I mean, like, look, this is the same kind of, arguably, this is better evidence than like just having somebody's writings, because writings are subjective, right? What we're talking about here is objective hard facts. It is true that we have ice core samples. It is true that we have uranium lead dating of zircon that leads to very, very old ages. It is true that we have cosmological radionuclide dating. All of these things are objective, whereas the history that we have is subjective. And yet, for some reason, it seems like you're reliant on the subjective reading of history from a few thousand years ago, and you trust that, but you don't trust the objective history derived from the scientific process.
So I do trust it, right? But the question is, like, if you keep digging, you'll find something, right? And science is basically the same way.
I don't know
6,000
what that
years old,
means.
6 billion years old. So the history of Earth itself, right? The
Yeah.
universe is 13.6, right?
13.8 or so, yeah.
Yeah. So, and if we go biblically, then it says that, hey, we are on seventh day, right?
No, that's not what it says biblically. The seventh day was when God rested, and then other stuff happened afterwards.
Which is what's happening right now, right?
Yeah, that's after the seventh day. So biblically, we're like 6,000 years in, not like 7 days in.
Yes. So, and the history of universe itself goes to 13.8 billion years old, right?
Yeah.
And that's technically, if you divide it by 2, right? Then you get
hold on.
7.
Before we pivot into like some numerology stuff, what do you make of the fact that we have this objective evidence that the Earth is older than 6,000 years old?
So the whole age of the universe itself, because we kept digging besides more than Earth, right? And 2,000 years ago, what happened was that they wanted to dig even further, and someone had to make up something, right?
I don't know what you mean by digging.
Once you keep digging, so let's say once you start digging, wherever you are, right? What happens if you keep digging?
Digging what? Like in the ground?
A hole. Yes, in the hole.
The hole gets deeper.
And eventually you reach the other side of the Earth, right?
Only if you think the Earth isn't flat.
So yeah, but then that's what happens, and you'll have a
what does that have to do with anything?
So eventually, why have we not been able to do that yet? Drill a hole.
Why haven't we been able to drill a hole through the Earth? What does this have to do with the age of the Earth?
because something we have not been able to do, right? Because
What
that
does that
does
have
not
to do
make
with the
sense.
age of the Earth?
Because what I'm saying is that if you keep digging, right, you'll find something, and age of the Earth the same way, right? Because we have reached a certain point where we cannot. Yeah, so the Earth, age of the Earth, right? It can be made up because we have reached a point where we cannot make sense of our data,
We
right?
can
And
make
we
sense of
just
our data,
increase
though.
that to billions of years of old.
We absolutely can make sense of our data, though. All of the data that we have is consistent.
I mean, like it's only consistent if it's only 13 billion years. 13.
Well, we're talking about the age of the
billion
Earth. The Earth is 4.5 billion years old or so.
I mean, like, so what is the age of the United States?
250 years old, almost to the.
That's made up
almost to the
stuff,
day.
right? We have to go dig towards the land, right? So what is the
What?
age of the United States land itself?
That's not what you asked. The United States is a governmental organization. You asked how old it is. I gave you the answer.
So you see, right? So many things that humans just make up, and
look,
I
the
really
age
don't
of the Earth
understand
is not something humans make up. The question is, how many times has the Earth gone around the sun? That's a really simple. It's a really simple and super objective question, right?
How many times the Earth has gone around the sun?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like according to the current scientific time frame, that's quite a few 4 billion years old, right?
Right. But you think it's less than that.
No, I think the whole universe is 6,000 years old. Like
right,
light,
which means
like
that the Earth must have gone around the sun less than 6,000 times. Right, because a year is the amount of time it takes for the Earth to go around the sun.
No, so what I think is that so let's start from just basic light, right? If we only have light.
Wait a minute. I really need clarification before we can move on. How many times do you think the Earth has gone around the sun?
4.5 billion times.
Okay, right. So the Earth has gone around the sun 4.5 billion times or so. Now, what do you call the length of time that it takes for the Earth to go around the sun?
How many times do you think an electron has gone around an atom?
Can you answer my question?
I don't care. You see, I don't care.
Okay, so I'll answer the question for you. We called that amount of time a year. Now,
yes. How many times?
So the Earth has done 4.5 billion things, each of which takes a year. Which means that the Earth is how many years old?
4.5 billion years old.
Right. And if the Earth is 4.5 billion years old, how can the universe, which contains the Earth, be 6,000 years old?
So that's the point, right? So if we base something off of a simple carbon itself, right, we can say like, hey, how many times the electron has gone around the nucleus, right? Really does not matter, right? Because now we have got a better point, right? Which is, let's say, what does carbon make, right? Maybe diamond, right? So now diamond can trap a light and they can base it off of that, right? Hey, we have a light and now we have, let's just say like Planck's, all the data of Planck's, right? And we can base it off of, hey, this is the time of light, absolute light.
What does this have to do with the age of the universe and the age of the Earth?
So when we calculate that, I think the light will have only traveled for 6,000 years old, right?
The light has only traveled for 6,000 years is what you think?
Yes.
Okay, which light?
One every photon, right?
Photons have only traveled for 6,000 years in your view?
Yes.
Okay, so what were the photons doing 4.5 billion years ago?
So I think they were in heaven.
Was the Earth in heaven?
No.
Was the sun in heaven?
I mean, yes, you could say that, yes.
So the Earth existed 4.5 billion years ago, but the sun didn't exist 4.5 billion years ago.
So sun existed, Earth didn't. Yeah, you could go both ways, right? So who came first, right?
I don't know how you can go both ways.
So let me preface, right? When I say Indiana, I'm from Indiana, USA, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which came first? Indiana came first or USA came first?
I'm pretty sure the US came first.
Texas, in some cases, Texas came first, then United States, right?
No, I think it's still true that the United States
Texas
came first
before the United States. Yes.
I don't. Well,
Texas
okay,
existed
maybe that's
before
true.
United
But like,
States.
look,
Florida
it is true
existed before
it
United
is true
States.
that the sun existed before the Earth.
So the same problem with Florida before United States, right? But nobody agrees, but we know, right?
Wait, but we do agree that the sun came before the Earth, right?
I mean, we both depend on each other, right? Because we depend on photosynthesis.
How does that answer my question?
Because it's kind of like, hey, do you depend on your mother or your dad?
I didn't say
I depend on both.
And I wasn't asking about you. I was asking about the sun and the Earth.
Yes, one is dad, one is mom, right? Would you depend on? I depend on both.
I'm not asking about what depends on what. I'm asking which one existed first, the sun or the Earth?
Moon existed first.
The moon existed before the sun.
Yes,
in your view.
All of them.
Mm-hmm. What?
Moon existed before sun.
Why would you think that?
Because that's what we based it off our calendar on, right? Moon gave birth to. Who
cares? What does the calendar have to do with anything?
Because we go by our own time.
Look, okay. Wind the clock back so that Earth was just about to start its first orbit around the sun. Did the moon exist?
Moon existed before everything else. Start everything with moon. Do not start with Earth.
How did the moon predate the sun and the Earth?
I don't know. Create one right now. It'll make more sense now.
What?
So, moon came into existence before Earth and sun.
Why do you think that?
And why do you not think that at all?
Because we know how the Earth formed, we know how the moon formed, we know how the sun formed. In order for the Earth to form, the sun needed to exist.
How did moon form? Tell me, how did moon form?
A collision with a protoplanet called Theia and proto-Earth knocked a big chunk of stone out of molten rock out from the proto-Earth, and then it coalesced into a moon that now orbits us.
So you've never been to the moon, right? And nobody besides Neil Armstrong has been to the moon. We don't have any data on the moon, and you're claiming we know the moon, right?
I'm gonna crash out. Nobody's been to the moon besides Neil Armstrong. So you don't think the moon landing is a hoax, but you think that Neil Armstrong was the only one who went?
I mean, a couple of them, right? But
so to be clear, I think that there were 12 people who walked to the moon. We have moon rocks on Earth that they brought back. We have we have.
So just by bringing a rock, you know the whole history of the moon, and you
actually, yeah, science is pretty impressive, isn't it?
Oh, so you think like we're not the moon people at all? I actually think that we were actually on moon, right? And then
are you trolling me?
Are you? So how do you know that we were never settled on moon first, right? And then we jumped to Earth?
This has got to be a troll. Has it just been the most elaborate troll I've ever seen?
Because you said like sun came or the Earth, right? And now the answer is like both of them came at the same time, and moon exists between those two, right? So moon came first. Now I'm arguing based off of your argument, because sun and the Earth, right? They're like mother and father, right? Because sun is like sun, right? Mom and Earth is like mother Earth, so they have to have a pair. Right, so the only one that begets both is moon. So moon comes first and then both. So there it is. I'm arguing based off of you.
No, you're not.
Yeah, because sun and Earth are paired, right? They have to come together.
No, the sun predates the Earth. The sun came. Nope, the sun existed before the Earth did.
Nope, they have to come together.
Why?
Not possible.
What? Why isn't it possible?
Try and create one. Like, that's what I'm asking, right? Why is it possible? And like, why is it possible for you?
Why is it possible for me to create the sun?
Yes. So how is it possible in your model
that I can explain. So in standard cosmological models or standard astrophysical models, stars form, our sun is a star, stars form via the coalescence of gas. Now, as that gas is coalescing, not all of it falls into the core, and so not all of it becomes part of the star, and rather what you end up with is just a big gas cloud surrounding a star. And as the star continues to develop, that gas cloud, some of it continues to spiral in, some of it kind of gets ejected out, and eventually you end up with a protoplanetary disk. That protoplanetary disk then eventually coalesces into planets, and some of those planets collide. And in the case of our star, our Earth, the two planets collided. One that we now call Theia, and the other one was Proto-Earth. Theia collides into Proto-Earth, knocks out a big chunk, and we're left with the moon.
So that's the formation when you go by time, right?
What else are we doing?
So if you go by the creation of the universe itself, right, you have to create a timeline. And in that timeline, moon has to be created first before sun and the earth.
Why does the moon have to be created first?
Because it's a separate entity, like a sphere entity that can exist by itself.
The sun can exist. The sun can exist by itself. The Earth could exist. They're all just spheres.
So, so what I'd suggest, right? Because if you start from scratch, building universe from scratch, you have to create moon first, and only then you can go to sun. And
what is happening?
Because a star does not explode, right? Unless it is filled with iron. Yes or
no? What star? Why do you need the moon? How did the moon get there?
How do you get a star to explode?
Our sun hasn't exploded.
But tell me, like, how does a star explode? What is the reason for a star to explode?
How is this relevant?
It's really relevant because that's when the creation of moon happens.
So you're saying the moon happened as a result of a supernova?
Yes.
Okay. Why do you think that that's how the moon formed?
So that's basically the position of electron, and so moon is outside of the Earth, right? So same as nucleus, right? Which has outside of it exists the electron, right? So same as the concept is, hey, Earth, inside is Earth, outside is moon, right? And the similar concept.
Why do you think that a supernova formed the moon?
Supernova is an explosion, right? Of
the type of explosion, sure.
Mm-hmm. So why does it? The reason it needs to explode comes in the topology.
This has got to be a troll. It's got to be a troll. I mean, I'm going to post it, and I'm going to pretend it's not a troll, but it's got to be a troll.